Everyone told us we regret leaving Canada. They said El Salvador was dangerous, poor, and corrupt. But after 14 months here, I can tell you, everything you heard is wrong. After living here for the past 14 months, here's the honest comparison you need before making the move. We cover costs, safety, family life, and cultural differences that actually matter. Buenas tardes, mis amigos, y bendiciones para todos ustedes. Good afternoon, my friends, and blessings to you all. My name is Charity Hagenars, and bienvenido de mi canal if you're new here, y bienvenido de nuevo if we're already old amigos. Si no habla inglés, de la configuración de YouTube y selecciona pista de audio para escuchar este video en español. O presione el botón CC para obtener subtítulos en español. If you regularly enjoy this content, please consider hitting the like button as it helps the algorithm get this content out to more people. And if you want to support our channel, we have a membership option below as well. So let's go over the cost of living. How about let's start with housing. House prices for rent really depend on location. Now, I was comparing prices in Ottawa compared to about 100 kilometers surrounding where we live right now, which is called Lourdes. Ottawa is not the most expensive city to live in, and it's very large. So some of these listings are on the outskirts of the greater Ottawa area. On the lower side, I see about $2,500 a month Canadian. The ones under 1,000 Canadian here are just for rooms for rent in these 4-bedroom houses, so don't be misled. In El Salvador, you can find, on average, more homes within 20 kilometers of San Salvador for under $1,000 USD for a 4-bedroom home per month. The closer you get to the city, the more expensive they get, but there are many more homes well under $1,000 a month for rent here for the whole family. Now, it is really hard to compare as homes in Canada are built quite differently than homes here. If you want to get a more Canadian standard style of home, then you're definitely going to have to pay more. The difference is you don't have to. You can live in a typical Salvadorian style home, whereas in Canada, you don't really have a choice. Let's go over some groceries. I can get 30 eggs for $5.50 USD and buy this whole countertop of fruit and vegetables for $30 USD. Now, for obvious reasons, fruit and vegetables will always be cheaper here. And I can see in Walmart Canada, you can get a dozen eggs for $3.93 Canadian, which adds up to about $9.82 Canadian, or $7 USD for the same 30 eggs. So as you can see, it's cheaper here. I'm looking at the Walmart Canada website and nearly having heart palpitations here. The price of ground beef is $1.67 for 100 grams, and here it's $2.77 USD per pound or per 454 grams. That is half the price compared to Canada. How can anyone afford to eat? Let's do the math on this. Canada, $1.67 Canadian or $1.19 USD for 100 grams. In El Salvador, that's 61 cents USD for the same 100 grams. How about we try some chicken? The cheapest chicken breast in Canada Walmart is $1.39 Canadian per 100 grams. Or 99 cents USD for 100 grams. El Salvador, the cheapest boneless but not skinless chicken here, is $1.31 per pound or 28 cents per 100 grams. That is over 3 times cheaper in El Salvador, close to 4 times cheaper actually. So what about utilities? Water, electricity, internet, that kind of stuff, right? This is one of the biggest differences. On average, our electric bill in Canada costs, now I did on average per month based on the year 2023, because that's the last year we were there the whole year, although we were gone all of July, so there was no air conditioning costs for July, so probably would have been a slight bit higher. But on average, this is what it comes up with. For our natural gas, it was $197.90 per month. That includes our dryer and our hot water heater as well as our furnace. Now, we also supplemented with a wood stove with wood heat. So not exactly the same, although our house is not the exact same size. So again, hard to compare the apples and apples in this situation. Our hydro, which is our electricity, that's $190.41. And we also had a rental for our furnace, hot water heater, and our air conditioner. That's $252.43 per month. So that total is $641 Canadian or $457.50 USD per month on utilities. Now, we didn't have a water bill because we had a well, but those can be about $100 or more per month depending on where you're at. Now, compare that to the electricity bill I just had last month. It was the biggest one we had so far, and it was still under $180 USD. Of course, there's no heat here. It's just air conditioning, lights, etc., that kind of stuff, as well as our hot water heater. How about transportation? Well, I look at gas and diesel here run between $3.20 and $3.60 per gallon for gas and diesel. Car maintenance, that really depends on your car, but in general, repairs are cheaper for labor, but maybe slightly expensive for parts, depending on if your car is a popular brand here or not. Public transportation is hands down cheaper here, where rides cost 25 to 60 cents in an old Canadian style school bus, or there are some coaches out there that look a little bit more like public transportation in Canada. But oppose that to OC Transpo, where I got these numbers, that's $1.75 to $4.05 Canadian, or $1.25 to $2.89 USD in Canada. Also, car insurance is not mandatory here in El Salvador, so that saves us $160 Canadian per month. Now, we're going to get some insurance for our van as we're transporting other people, and that's about, I think, $43, $44 a month, something like that. We're looking into this one company with that's the price, and includes something like it's almost like the CAA benefits as well as your car insurance, like including a tow or two a year, I think it is. I can't remember this exact plan, but this is what my friend had. He had 2 tows for the year, as well as like a car rental and stuff like that. So it's a little bit like the Canadian Automobile Association added on to your insurance. So that's kind of cool. And we'll look into that, and I'll tell you what that is when we have that. But we don't even have to buy it right now. So that's a big savings. How about healthcare costs? Well, insurance costs in Canada for private insurance, it can be pretty expensive, but it will cover your dental, prescription drugs, glasses, therapies like chiropractic or physio, like for so many visits a year, and medical procedures. Those costs range from $75 to $150 per month per person, Canadian. And here the insurance can be around $140 USD per month for like a family of 4, I'm told. Now, I don't have it, so I don't know exactly, but I am inquiring with somebody to see what their rates are, so I can give you more information on that. But the quote I was given by another expat here was $140 for their family of 4 per month USD. How about property taxes? In Canada, you pay property tax each month on your mortgage, or like we did 2 times a year, and ours was $5,500 for the year. In El Salvador, you pay property tax once when you buy the property, and it's 3% of the purchase price only for property over something like $26,000, I think the number is. And you do not pay when it's less than that at all. You actually own your land here. It's not being rented from your municipality like it is in Canada. Of course, with all the stuff going on in British Columbia right now, the people that thought they owned their homes are in for a rude awakening now that it has been determined that the natives own the land. No clear titles in Canada now. But in El Salvador, once you buy the land and it's registered in the CNR, it is your land. How about some daily lifestyle contrasts? Let's talk about banking. That's an important one. In Canada, banks fall all over backwards to lend you money. In El Salvador, you practically have to give your firstborn child to borrow money here. Also in Canada, money laundering is prevalent. And in El Salvador, they want to know your money source when you deposit funds. At least the first time I brought cash into the bank, they wanted to know where I got it. I showed them the ATM receipts from the Chivo ATM where I took the money from my Bitcoin and was putting it in my account. And when I went to set up my YouTube monthly wire transfers, they needed to know where that money was coming from and how much it was kind of going to be. And they said, is it going to be over $5,000? I'm like, I'm not that popular on YouTube yet. After that, I didn't have to show anyone anything. Banking here can be cumbersome. For example, when we first opened our bank accounts, we spent more than an hour with the bank teller, giving them all the information. And even then, we had to come back about 36 hours later for them to be able to set the app up on our phones. And there are never enough bank machines available. In our bank specifically, there are 5 bank machines, but only 1 does deposits. 2 are for services like resetting your app password, and the other 2 do withdrawals and other services. There's always like 10 to 50 people in the lineup, and I find that annoying. Just make 1 machine that does everything and put 5 of them out there. You know, in Canada, it is not as much of a cash-based society, so people do not feel the need to go to the bank machine on payday and remove all their money like they do here. Also, everyone gets paid on the 15th and 30th of the month, so never, ever, ever go to the bank machine on those days. It is insane. One nice thing here is that I can send money directly to people's bank accounts, or even with a QR code to pay my electric bill. I just scan it with the banking app, and I'm able to pay the bill directly. In Canada, we have e-transfer, but you need to set it up for auto deposit if you want the money to go directly into your bank account, or else you're going to open your email and then open your banking app and put it in. So it's nice that I can just send it to people directly. So some things are easier here and some things are harder. However, I have learned one thing. From Banco Agricola, they do not allow foreigners to use the Transferencias 365 between the banks. I can only use it for other Banco Agricola accounts, or I need to use UNI to transfer money to somebody else. I have not done that yet, but it's a minor inconvenience, but it's all doable. And of course, you can just use Bitcoin at all major shopping chains and with some smaller vendors as well, or between people, right? So as far as shopping goes for the experience, I'd say Canadian grocery store chains versus, our local markets here kind of thing. Shopping in El Salvador is a little different than in Canada. For example, at every cash register, they'll ask you if you want a ticket or a factura. And when we came here in 2023, Stan told me this, and because the cashier speaks so quickly, I hardly caught what they were actually saying. But basically, every store you go to here can give you a regular receipt, that's a ticket, or a factura, which is an invoice that you use to expense your business stuff. So if you say factura, they should ask you for an email address because all of El Salvador's businesses use electronic receipts with an email receipt going to the customer directly. And in here we have only one really major grocery chain, Super Selectos, whereas in Canada, like you have the Sobeys company stuff, you have the Loblaws companies with the independents, and then the No Frills, I think, is theirs. And then we have the Lourdes as well. Here we really only have the one major chain. In Canada, you also have Walmart. We have Walmart here. Walmart has a couple of different tiers. Maxi Despensa being the lower level one, which is near us, so we use that one quite often. And of course, we have Canada, we have Costco, we have PriceSmart here, almost the exact same stuff. Well, actually, oftentimes the exact same stuff. And it's mostly all imported, so you're going to pay a little bit more for it. But we only get stuff there that we can't get other places that, we need, like American-style cheese. That's a thing that's hard to find here. As far as the work culture goes, in Canada, the work week is 40 hours. In El Salvador, the work week is 44 hours, which means Monday to Friday, there's 8 hours a day and 4 hours on Saturdays. This is a big difference here. It also means that there's still a lot of traffic on Saturday mornings and early afternoons as people are heading to and from work then. In Canada, people need to work very long hours in order to survive. And the same is true in El Salvador, but this is a little different. I see here that people also know how to relax and chill at the end of the day, and they are not ruled as much by the mighty dollar as they are in Canada. We have this community WhatsApp group, and every Friday, and sometimes throughout the week, but every Friday and maybe even Saturday night, there's always this guy who puts out he's always selling beer. He puts out the beer o'clock. It's beer o'clock now. He'll deliver beer, I guess, to your house, or maybe go to there and pick it up. Again, that would never happen in Canada. You can't sell beer from your house. But it's all about, a little bit more relaxation here, whereas in Canada, it's work, 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 go, go, go. It's almost like you're in a battle or something. In Canada, it seems more of an atmosphere of greed and selfishness. Now, obviously, not everyone, but in the work environments that I've been in, this is how it makes me feel. But here it is different. I know that many people are living hand to mouth here. Many stores are run by entire families with their children helping you bring your vegetables to your car, like it happened to me last week. And in Canada, you would rarely see that nowadays. I started working when I was 11 as a babysitter, but at age 13, I actually had a part-time job at a local country convenience store, which is almost unheard of now in Canada. 13-year-olds don't have payroll-type jobs. They are still babysitters, however. Don't worry about that. Here, you'll see people bring their kids to help the family make ends meet. And sometimes this also means that the kids aren't in school. Now, I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but it makes it much harder to break the poverty cycle if the children do not know basic schooling like math and reading and writing, et cetera, et cetera. I think in most places in Canada, if you brought your kids to work like this, some Karen would be calling Children's Aid on you. And therein lies the key difference between the two countries. No one here would report such nonsense to anyone. Salvadorans are very family-oriented, and many live in multi-generational homes where the kids are expected to contribute to the household economy. And in Canada, once your kids are, 18, a lot of them just leave home and start lives of their own. And since Canada is a very big country, this often means your kids moving away to work and therefore weakening the family bonds. Okay, let's talk about stuff like communication, like internet and cell phones now. The only real difference is the cost. In El Salvador, it is way cheaper for internet. In Canada, we had to have Starlink as we were in the country, and we only had bad options like Xplornet and Storm, and they were at least $100 a month. They didn't work well. Now we have Starlink, and it's $158.20 Canadian or $112.78 USD per month. Here, it's $32.98 USD. And it's better service here and I think it's 150 megabytes. I guess megabytes. Anyway, the service here is really good. For cell phones, I had in Canada a 25 gigabyte plan. It was about $102 or so a month with TELUS, which is about 72 USD. And here it's $15, like an order of magnitude different. And I get 20 gigabytes, not 25 for regular internet, but I also have 2.5 gigabytes extra for YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, and X. They are all extra on top. So really I have 22.5 gigabytes for $15 instead of $72. Like, that's a lot cheaper. It's not even comparable, really. And the cell phone coverage and service I get is excellent. There are no differences between any tech service that I've seen, to be honest, between El Salvador and Canada. Well, let's talk a little bit about family life and safety. Now, education's a big thing. In general, public schools have fallen into more disrepair here than they have in Canada, at least as far as cosmetics go. And not every school is equipped the same, depending on the number of students. However, our President Bukele is investing millions of dollars into new schools in this country. The curriculum is better here as far as education goes, and it does not have any information about gender confusion or teaching your kids how to perform sexual acts at the age of 8, like they do in Canada. Here it is basic education: reading, writing, arithmetic, social studies, science, computer literacy, and civics. How about safety? I can walk all over El Salvador, day or night, and I feel safe. In Canada, a few weeks ago, they found the body of a missing man from our community in a backyard only one road from our house. I doubt we'd have such misfortune here in El Salvador. There are 4 missing men in Smith Falls area when our contractor and friend, Steve, went missing. And they found his body in a ditch not 2 kilometers from our house just 2 years ago, our last winter in Canada. It is crazy the amount of missing people in Canada. It really is. There are still 2 other missing men that we know of in our community in Canada. Under community, I want to say it's much easier to build lasting friendships in a country where you speak the same language. And if you know Spanish, then you will have no issues. Willem and I studied Duolingo for 2 years before moving here. So we had some basics, and now we are watching the language tutor on YouTube, and we just got 5 copies of the Syllabarios to work on this month. We have made good friends with English-speaking locals here, though, and I know if I need anything, I have people to call. So how did our children adapt? Well, for the full info on this, I suggest that you watch last week's video here and listen to them directly from the children themselves. It is a process, I have to say. Let's talk a little bit about healthcare. I've done a few videos here on the public health care here, as well as the private care that I've received. But our president just announced the next level of cutting-edge healthcare to come to El Salvador, and that's called Dr. SV. It is an app that is being rolled out to 18 to 30-year-olds, the more tech-savvy of the population. But this is for primary care physicians. So you download the app, you register, you start putting in your symptoms, and then it will ask you to schedule an appointment. You'll do a Google Meets call with your physician. The physician gets all the information that the AI collected, and it also, AI prompts the doctor with a diagnosis or like a suspected diagnosis. And if need be, the doctor will ask you more questions to confirm this. And if the physician agrees with what the AI diagnosis was, then it gives the physician the protocol to follow for that ailment. And if the physician does not agree, then the AI will suggest, asking more questions. And it's just rolling out now for the younger age group. And, once they know how to use it, they'll help their parents and grandparents use it. I can't wait. It's for the whole country. And this is where private and public medicine meet. They have a partnership. This is amazing. And the app, what'll happen is after your doctor does the appointment with you, if you need to get x-rays or MRIs or prescriptions or whatnot, that all goes through the app as well. And then you take, for a prescription, for example, take your app to the pharmacy, they scan a QR code, and you get your prescription for free, gratis, for all the citizens here. It is amazing. El Salvador will be the world leader in the medical AI race. See his address and watch the whole thing. It was amazing. Now in Canada, they have long wait times, and they have a shortage of primary care physicians. And the government would rather kill you than cure you, as they continue to push medical assistance in dying at an alarming rate. Now 1 in 20 deaths in Canada are by the hands of the government. And that number is not even up to date. It's evil. It's pure, unadulterated evil. Let's talk a little bit about culture. Now, El Salvador is very Christian. There are many churches here, but only one that has an English service, and that is in San Salvador. So we haven't felt super comfortable going to a church here. Now, we've been invited, and we're told that they'll even do translation for us, but we just have not gone. I'm afraid if I go, the kids are going to say how bored they are because they don't understand any Spanish. Now, I would like to attend a Catholic Mass, and I was actually looking for the nearest church, and I just think it's one street over, to be honest. I've seen the church, but I can't find like a website or Facebook group or anything to say what time the Mass is. So that's one thing that I would like to find out soon. It would be much easier when we actually speak Spanish for that to happen. Let's talk a little bit about family values. El Salvador is 100% all about family values. Canada does the divide and conquer thing with your family. I am so old. I remember in 2020 when it was you support BLM or you're racist. Or if you don't get the COVID jab, you're an anti-vaxxer. If you don't believe in climate change, you're a climate denier. And if you do not support trans rights, you are homophobic. And most recently, if you say anything bad or question the government of Israel, you're an anti-Semite. With that propaganda being driven down everyone's throat every evening during the Lies at 5 news segments, no wonder families are collapsing in Canada. That is not a defect, it is by design. Let's talk a little bit about government. El Salvador is focusing on safety, education, businesses, and healthcare. All of those align very well with safe, happy, and prosperous families. Canada is tearing down families, passing speech laws to put you in jail for mean tweets and putting you under house arrest if you even think of saying something mean online. They will charge you a $70,000 fine for offending someone online, and they pay $20,000 of that money to the snitch who ratted you out in the first place. And Frank would feel quite at home in Canada, not to mention all the communist socialist policies the government is passing legislation on. Now, if you do not pay attention, you forfeit your rights to complain. Freedom lost is the cost of apathy. Give me death or give me liberty. Let's talk a little bit about our social norms. One thing we do notice is the amount of modesty in El Salvador. You rarely see women in skimpy bikinis or men in Speedos here. Actually, I don't know if I've seen any. I love it. People cover themselves up, and it's more in alignment with their Christian values and ours. In Canada, men and women I've seen parade absolutely buck naked down the streets of cities. I don't understand. It's depravity on display. And let's get on to where the morals come from. The moral climate of this country. Our President Bukele has given many fine speeches that show where he is coming from. He had a great one on CPAC, and his interview with Tucker Carlson shows you the man he is. And when the leader of a country has morals and values that are in alignment with ours, that's where we want to live. That is why we moved here. Canadian leaders of late show they neither have morals nor values, and are only trying to launder as much of the taxpayer dollars as they possibly can into their accounts while in power. Why do you think their net worth goes up while they're in power? It isn't from the $300,000 a year salary, I'll tell you that. Tell me in the comments, what are your biggest concerns about the country that you live in? So, our final verdict. In Canada, I grew up, spent my youth in relative freedom, and I learned to be a strong woman, especially since 2011, when my eyes were opened up to the reality that was really there, to the evil and the moral decay that was infesting Canada. Our first taste of that was with the Children's Aid Society. Once we started fostering children, we learned how evil that system was. I won't get into that in this video, but there's a reason why they call the town Prescott Molestcott. In El Salvador, I gained the Canada of my youth, with safety and freedom from government overreach. It isn't perfect, but it's such a better and safer place to raise children than Canada is right now. You may think I am crazy, but you probably are unaware of the evil that is running Canada and most of the Western countries right now. Why do you think they want to keep trying to lower the age of consent to 14? It's evil. The things that I feel like we've lost by coming to El Salvador, I would say the biggest one is my family. Now, my parents still live in Canada, although they didn't live in Ontario, so they were always a plane ride away. Now it's more like 2 planes and, several more hours in the air and possibly more money. Also, our friends, although we still stay in touch over the internet, it isn't the same as having a coffee at someone's house. Actually, we had friends over this week. Thank you, Miguel and Regina, for coming over, because we realized how much we miss that, having friends over and just to hang out. But if we were to have stayed in Canada, we would have lost our freedom, and that's unacceptable. So who should consider moving to El Salvador versus, say, staying in Canada? But if you value freedom and especially if you have a family to raise, we recommend El Salvador. If you're okay with less freedom and living under a socialist government, then stay in Canada. My honest recommendation after 14 months is that no country is perfect, but if the country you are living in does not align with your morals and values, then you should look for one that does. We found ours in El Salvador. We love our president, and if you're interested in knowing more about El Salvador, we have a WhatsApp group, and we also meet every Monday night at 7 p.m. El Salvador time. Send us your WhatsApp number to our email at youtube@haganars.com and see the description below for the Google Meets link to our Monday night call. And we just hang out there and we answer any questions you may have about moving to El Salvador. Also, if you have any questions, you can feel free to ask them in the comments. I read them all. Share this video with any families that are considering leaving their home countries, and we'll see you in the next one.
Don't forget to hit the like button.